We are in the final stretch of the presidential race. With 35 days to Election Day, the candidates face off tonight in their first presidential debate on some of the most pressing issues for voters.
In just under 2 hours, the candidates will meet center stage at a debate hall in Cleveland, Ohio, a socially distanced affair in which the candidates won't even shake hands. President Trump and former Vice President Biden both say they're ready for tonight, and neither sounds like they're assuming this will be a pleasant encounter.
That's right. They're both expected to attack each other's record and fitness for office. Joining us now is CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. And Ed, a CBS News poll finds that just 6% of voters who will be watching tonight are undecided. So how critical is tonight's debate for these candidates?
Hugely critical, Elliot. Lauren, good to see you as well. This is a state that CBS ranks as a battleground state, for example, and Biden, now sensing an opportunity to take it back and put it in the Democratic column, plans to stick around tomorrow to either expand upon or clean up whatever happens here in the debate hall tonight. But with only 6% of Americans still trying to make up their mind, the president and Biden both understand they've got to make their case. The former vice president likely trying to do no harm to maintain his lead in battleground states across the country, talk up the president's failure, in his view, to deal with the pandemic and the economic downturn it's caused. For the president, he's got to find a way to puncture Biden's lead, raise doubts about his ability to serve as commander-in-chief.
And Ed, Joe Biden released his tax returns today, upping the ante on President Trump and his finances in the wake of the bombshell report from the New York Times regarding President Trump's taxes. How might that play at tonight's debate?
Yeah, they released these 38 pages from his 2019 taxes earlier today, sort of raising the stakes and trying to make the point that Biden is more transparent, that he's not trying to hide anything, and that the president has taken advantage of a tax system that benefits wealthy Americans like him. You'll hear the former vice president tonight likely make reference to the fact that he grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, working class background, whereas the president grew up in Manhattan, Queens, had a more comfortable upbringing. The argument being that the former vice president has a better understanding of the economic situation facing many Americans these days than the president does. But pretty telling that they would do this. I would only point out this. There was a Miami resident who did a similar thing back in 2016. The former governor, Jeb Bush, remember that? Released years of his tax returns, and it did nothing. Nothing to move the needle. So the president knows. He got away with this 4 years ago, if you're someone who thinks he should have, and should have released them, and currently at least sees no need to do it this time.
And we also know, Ed, that Jeb Bush did not fare well in debates against Donald Trump. What do you see as the challenges tonight facing Joe Biden?
Well, one thing we know that Biden apparently is not planning to do, despite the fact that earlier this month he said he would do that, is he won't serve as a real-time fact-checker. There has been some talk about whether the moderator or Biden should step in to explain or clarify some of the things that the president says, because he has a history of not always telling the truth. But Biden aides today said he has absolutely no plans to spend time on that and instead wants to talk to the American people directly. But like I said, earlier this month, Biden had said that he wanted to serve as a real-time fact-checker. The moderator tonight, Chris Wallace of Fox News, also not expected to step in and correct any falsehoods or mistruths. The Commission on Presidential Debates says it's not the role of a moderator to do that, simply to present the questions, allow the candidates to talk to themselves, and let you at home make up your mind.
Ed O'Keefe, live for us in Cleveland tonight. Thank you so much. You can watch tonight's debate from Cleveland right here on CBS 4. Live coverage begins at 9, then stay tuned for CBS 4 News tonight.